This video is for all you stupid fucking trolls and haters online, saying mean and hurtful things about fedoras. Well, guess what? They rule harder than you, dipshits.
People all over the world look down different avenues to express themselves and find like-minded people. We do this to feel belonged and to express ourselves to people who aren't a part of our club. Usually, this refers to large cultures that span nationwide and often international. You don't have to look far to hear about these groups, and you're probably part of a collective, even if you don't realize it. But perhaps what is more interesting is that there are groups within cultures that are more focused and narrow than the larger group. These are called subcultures. Subcultures are groups of people who reject the larger culture and seek different ways to express themselves through style and distinction. Let's take for example skinhead culture in the 1970s. Interestingly, this group of people came from the mod subculture, which rose up in the 60s. Skinhead subculture evolved from this and became more of a working class interpretation, an output for more basic clothing styles and subscribed to soul and reggae music, among others. Skinhead culture became more apparent in the late 70s when they created the white power skinhead scene and became influenced by far-right ideologies. I'll leave it to your imagination to figure out what came next. But basically, subcultures are all about building and growing from each other and will never truly reach an end point. But how do subcultures come about? Every subculture that exists seems to be one on an infinite spectrum of evolution. The rise and decline of a subculture suggests that a subculture owes its existence to the fact that it provides a solution to a certain problem. Every subculture must have a start point where like-minded individuals come together on agreement of certain ideas. The first recognized subcultures arose pre-World War I and were mostly political, believing in ideas of free expression and identity. Foundationally, it is easy to connect the dots of how most subcultures come to be, as they all believe in the same principles of freedom. A number of journalists, historians, and people who remember the wealth of culture in the 60s, 70s, and 80s report that they feel there has been a decline in subcultures around the world in recent decades. Alex Petridis of The Guardian claims that the only real teenage cults visible to an outsider, displaying their allegiances by manner of dress, seem to be metalheads and emos, from an article in 2014. If this is true, then surely there has been a decline in subculture. So, what I want to ask today is, are subcultures still relevant? And if not, why not?
My name is Nathaniel, I'm 27 years old, and I'm in a serious relationship with my car.
Perhaps the biggest factor is the internet, which is due to the rising rates of its usage each year. It's common knowledge that just about everyone uses the internet, and in Australia, over 86% of youths use the internet to listen to music and watch videos between 2012 to 2013, according to Australian Bureau of Statistics. That number has only risen, no doubt. During adolescence, teenagers often become very interested in developing their identity and figuring out who they are, and it would be easy to assume that in the internet age, where bronies and furries seem to be commonplace, that subculture has grown. But does internet usage actually help subcultural growth? Well, it's complicated. Sociologist Dr. Kevin White explains that he thinks teenagers are now so satiated by the plethora of entertainment on offer that they don't feel the need to rebel through dress or ritual. What Dr. White is saying is that due to the readily available nature of different entertainment mediums like film and music, they've become less off-radar as they might have been in the 20th century. The ease of access of these internet subcultures breaks a taboo that they once had, and at that point, many subcultures start to dwindle and fall apart. It seems that once a subculture hits the mainstream, it loses its purpose of being exclusive. It's kind of funny that subcultures might be the only groups in society that struggle to make it off the ground because they go mainstream. To counter that point, Dr. Ruth Adams of King's College London claims that it's not necessarily happening on street corners anymore, but it's certainly happening online. It's a lot easier to adopt personas online that cost you absolutely nothing apart from demonstrating certain types of arcane knowledge. In this way, Adams argues that the barrier to entry and the amount of hurdles to jump is a lot smaller than it used to be. Instead of going to meetups and purchasing stylistic music and outfits, you may only need to make a username, join chat rooms and forums online, and be kept up with your subculture's specific knowledge. Maybe this means subcultures are no longer as committal as they once were, but that would also mean that subculture groups are still alive and well.
I had a friend that wasn't a furry, and I am, and we were friends for a long time, and when I told him I was a furry, he stopped being friends with me. Really?
This idea that subculture no longer pervades into real life leads into the next theory. Peter Suderman from Reason.com spearheads this idea by explaining that subcultural identities are no longer questioned by society. He says that almost everyone is part of some subculture now, and it's not questioned or noticed because it's not unusual, and goes on to explain that these people may be your neighbour, your teacher, or your colleague, and that subculture could be just one aspect of their life. I don't really identify with any subcultures I can think of, but people I've met are a lot more open about their interests and excited to express their abstract lifestyles, including fandom, fashion, music taste, and so on. It is undeniable that different cultural backgrounds are accepted and even pushed for in today's world. So, with all those perspectives noted, are subcultures still relevant? Yeah, but I think it's more complicated than just that. There seems to be a lack of transition between traditional subculture and internet subculture, and for a while there was a blank slate. After this all happened, the way subculture is achieved changed, and the torch is not passed down to newer generations. It seems though that during the blank slate of subculture, society's perspective changed and gave way to a new idea of what is acceptable. Subculture is now less centralized about everyday lifestyle choices like it once was, and more about leading a double life, an alter ego. We still have some way to go with the way people react to other people's personal lives, but what someone does behind closed doors is none of my business, so sure, if it keeps you happy, keep on yiffing. Thanks for watching.
Will you lock on to me? Eyeball! Be less of a fucking random dick! What? Lock on to me!